The fifth core value, the fifth pillar in which this house is framed up with is servant leadership. And simply put, the least will be the greatest. The least will be the greatest. Now, I don't know about you, but all right, actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and Mark chapter 9, okay? You there? Mark chapter 9. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to start into something else. Mark chapter 9, verse 33. Verse 33. All right? Verse 33. I hear some pages turning. If you're there, say word. Word. Let's get into the word so the word can get into us. They came to Capernaum. When he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" All right, so obviously they just came on Jesus' disciples on a journey. They arrive in Capernaum. They go into a house. All right, side note here, the house is a place for private teaching of his disciples. So if we're going to talk about servant leadership, this has nothing to do necessarily with the message, but that you are the primary leaders in your home, God-given role for you. Your home is a place for private teaching and exhortation and building up and guidance in your home for your children. That's your disciples, primarily the disciples God gave. All right? Just side note there. Look where Jesus private correction here. All right? A lot of times, dads, and I've made this mistake, we can have a tendency to correct our kids out in public in front of others. Jesus doesn't do that to his disciples. We shouldn't do that to our children. Bring them into the privacy of the home, and correction happens there. Okay, it honors them in that manner. Anyway, verse 34 says, "But they were silent because on the way they had been arguing with one another about who was the greatest." All right, Paul. So we're just going to pause right here and camp out just a minute. Now, the disciple, get the irony here, right? Like if this is a story that you're going to tell later, which is exactly what Mark's doing, he's telling this later, like this is probably the one you leave out. Like, if you're looking out for your own good and trying to lift yourself or elevate yourself, you leave this story out, right? You don't tell anyone about this. You don't tell anyone about this because get it. Here's 12 men who, for the most part, were fringe guys, okay? They were on the fringe. All right, Galileans, you got Matthew, the tax collector, these people who were pushed to the side, okay? And now they actually have a rabbi in their culture. They're now following a rabbi. And this rabbi is the one who says he's the greatest. So here they are. They are in the presence of the greatest, and they're arguing about which one of them is the greatest. This is silly. But I want to just see how incredible Jesus is. Because what he does not do is rebuke them for wanting to be great. He doesn't say, your problem is you just want to be great. You know why? Because God gave that to you and I. He gave that to humanity. We have a desire in us to be great. We have a desire in us to be great. Now, you can see this in kids, right? Any kid, like they start playing basketball or something like that. I remember specifically these two kids when they were twin brothers actually, and I remember that they played basketball or whatever. They're pretty good basketball players. But I remember them talking about this. They would say, man, when I get to the NBA, I will not play for the Chicago Bulls. I was like, listen, when you get to that, if you're that good, you'll play for whoever pays you a check. But you don't care. You ain't going to care who you played for. You're going to play for anybody. But this is the thing. This idea, what was happening in their mind was, like kids, they want to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Whatever that they grab a hold of, whatever, if it's a sport or playing music or something like that, whatever it is, it's like they have this natural desire and they believe it. Like they're going to be the greatest of all time. They're going to be the greatest of all time. Okay, that's in kids. But adults, we have the same thing. Now, here's the problem. Kids, it's unrealistic. But yet, it's not limiting, right? The good thing is they're not limiting themselves. However, it's a little unrealistic, you know? Like, there came a point when I realized I was 5'7". I cannot jump, like the movie says. All right? And I looked at the NBA, you know, the average height, I think, is probably like 6'5". All right? And if you're shorter than that, you better be able to jump out the gym. I had to come to the realization, I'm probably not making it to the NBA. Okay? All right, so that's children, but once you begin to get adults, it changes a little bit, and it more looks like this. I want to be great, but I want to be the greatest version of me. I want I'm not going to be LeBron James or Michael Jordan. I'm not an NBA player. Okay? But whatever this thing is that I have, that God's given me to do, I want to be as great as I possibly can. I want to reach my potential. Now, here, the interesting thing is it's realistic. That's a good thing. However, sometimes it's limiting. Because we'll limit ourselves in that. We'll limit ourselves, and so that can be a little dangerous. Because oftentimes we can fall into the trap of this reality, in which we don't see Jesus in affirming here. But we can fall into the trap of thinking that God doesn't want us to be great. And that, what it looks like to be a good human is to just get by. And just grind it out. And that's not true. That's not true. God has great things for you. God has great things for you and I. And notice that Jesus does not rebuke them for wanting to be great. He doesn't rebuke them for wanting to be great. What He checks them on and corrects them is this. Yes, you have a desire in you to be great. Your challenge is how you define greatness. It's not your desire to be great. It's how you're defining great. And you're living in this concept, and you've listened to what the world is saying about greatness, and now you're taking that, and you're experiencing this desire, and you're trying to manifest it in that definition. And that's not good. And check this out. Look back up to verse 31. Back up to verse 31 says this, "For He was teaching His disciples and telling them, the Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of men. They will kill Him, and after He is killed, He will rise 3 days later." So this is the second prediction in Mark's Gospel of the Passion narrative, that Jesus is going to give His life. So it's no mistake that this comes on the heels of the second. So the second prediction, Mark is writing this, and he says, here's the second prediction of Jesus going to the cross, and then he goes straight into this little narrative to tell the story about this time when the disciples were arguing about who's the greatest. And there's no mistake in that. What He's showing them is what it looks like to be great, is to give your life. What Jesus just told you in this prediction is what greatness actually looks like. And then Jesus does this really wild thing. He says, sitting down, He called the 12. Now, sitting down is really important. I talked to y'all about how when a rabbi was going to begin to teach, instead of standing like I do, okay, they would actually sit down. That's how it is. So when a rabbi would take his seat and sit down, it's, hey, tune in the ears. It's time to hear. It's time to listen. It's time to be taught, to listen to what the rabbi has to say. So Jesus sat down. He's making a point. Hey, I'm about to give some instruction here. And here's what He says. He called the 12 and said to them, if anyone wants to be first, he must be last and a servant of all. He must be a servant of all. Verse 36. He took a child and had him stand among them, and taking him in His arms, He said to them, whoever welcomes one little child such as this in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me does not. And let's start over. And whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but Him who sent me. But Him who sent me. This is an incredible statement. This is an incredible statement. And as I was listening to Matt up here talking about kids and them running around, to use his terminology, running amok. Kids running amok up here in worship. We see King Jesus in a culture who, mind you, ancient Israel did not put a lot of value in children. Okay? They were actually considered the needy. They were the lowest of the population. Okay? Because they didn't provide anything. Okay, they were just needy. They needed this. I mean, who's got kids? They're needy. You know, like, I need this. Dad, I need this. Mom, I need this. You know, they're needy. And instead of pushing them aside, no, I ain't got time for you. We're sitting here with the rabbi. We're trying to listen. We're trying to learn. No, Jesus brings the kids right up in here and puts it in His arm. Right here, stands right in His arm. Place of provision and protection. Right? And He uses this as an example of what it looks like to serve the least. To serve the least. Here's the deal. We all want to be great. Now, we define greatness in different ways and all those things. Great in your specific, when I say define it, you want to be great in the area that God's called you to or whatever. You want to push towards reaching your potential, as I said, right? The problem is not that we want to be great. The problem is that we define it the wrong way. And here's the thing. Jesus shows us the way of greatness. Jesus shows us the way of greatness. He shows us that the way to greatness, or the way up, is down. The way up is down. This is the great paradox of the gospel. So when you see the prediction, the second prediction of Jesus' death on the cross, okay, and that is now tied to this reality of what it looks like to be great, to be a person of greatness. The least is the greatest. This is what it looks like. The way up is down. The way of the gospel is the way of service. Or say it this way, it's the way of Jesus. That's why we always around here, this is the terminology we use. The way of Jesus is the way. It's the way. Now, it's countercultural. It's up is down. I've said it this way before. It's the Jesus in his great flip-flops. He just takes things and he just flips them over. Things that we think about, things that are viewed in our culture, he just takes them and he just flips them over. And so he takes this child right here and he says, listen, this is the one that is considered to be needy among us. That right here in our group, right here in the private setting, this is the most needy person. And he says, this is the person who's great, the one who tends to their needs and brings them in close. So my question to you is, who are the needy among us? Who are the needy among us? It's still children, first of all. Parents, once again, dads, it's your responsibility to train your children. They're in need. They're in need. And we live right now. People are allowing children to make decisions which it's clear they need direction in. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Our children are in need. And it is the way of Jesus to step in and bring them close. Right? This baby's in the womb. The church, it's our responsibility to speak for those who can't speak for themselves. To provide and protect for those who can't help themselves. The needy, the most needy among us. Who would be more needy than babies in the womb? But it's not just caring for them in the womb, it's caring for them in our homes. Bringing them into our homes as God leads us. The church should be on the forefront of fostering and adoption. And that's coming from somebody who has not fostered or adopted. I'm just saying that's the truth. So I get that I'm positioning myself here, you know. I understand what I just said. Let me just leave it at that. My wife's over here like, but listen, the greatest people that I know around me, servants of the Lord like I've never met before, are people who have stepped into that world. And I'm not saying that you're not. That's not what I'm saying. If you've not done that, if God's not led you to do that, I'm not saying you're less than or anything like that. I'm saying as the church, we should collectively come together and be working towards that. This is one of the reasons why we support Isaiah 117 House. This is why we support the Pregnancy Resource Center. So we come together collectively to support these things together. What about the elderly? We should look to the elderly for wisdom and care for them. We should stop pushing them to the side and actually listen to them. They have a lot of wisdom. They got a lot of life, don't they? And young people, I'm just going to tell you, look to your elders. Look to people who are elderly. Listen to them. Listen to the things that they have to say. Here's the reality, man. History repeats itself, and they've lived in some history. They got a history. And they can give us some guidance on how to navigate and live in this world. They're needy, absolutely. Absolutely, elderly people, they fall into, they are in need of some things. Their bodies are breaking down, those types of things. They're absolutely needed, but they also provide a whole lot for us too. So it's interesting how that looks. What about special needs? We should take care and receive those with special needs. The church should be on the forefront of this. We should be leading the charge in these things. And the great thing is, all of these, we can look at organizations that have been started by churches all throughout history, and we can say, you know what, we have. We have in a lot of ways, we have. But we can't stop. That's all I'm saying. Let's keep pushing into these things. And listen, here's the deal. One of the things we do when we go through growth track here is we do like a passions thing. Like, what lights you up? It's these nouns and verbs and things that will spark your interest. And so my question is, this is not the only list of the needy. There's lots of needy in our society. The question is, who's the needy people that God's laid on your heart that you have this maybe even it seems unnatural passion towards helping? Single mothers. And the list, I could go on and on. I could spend the next 30 minutes of just listing out people who are in need. That Jesus is this child who he brings to the side. This is a representation of them. It's a representation of them. And this is the thing. He says this is what greatness is like. It's like this. Greatness is like this. Bringing the needy right here. Dr. King said it this way. Anybody can be great because anybody can serve. Anybody can be great because anybody can serve. To accept the outcast and the oppressed is the way of accepting both God and Jesus. Greatness in the kingdom consists not of position, but of ministry. You say, I'm going to get to this, but Jesus says when you take in the needy, you not only take in me, but him who sent me. It's not about position, but ministry. Jesus shows us that greatness is about people, not position. Jesus shows us that greatness is about people, not position. If you need the title before you're going to do the work, then you're not fit for the title. I heard one pastor say it this way: if serving is beneath you, then leadership is above you. A culture driven by image and perception, this is what they do. They put a high value on titles and positions and affiliation, while not actually doing things that are life-changing for those in need. And this is the religious life. It's just, they may not even be a part of a religion, but they're still living according to religious things. Religion is always being measured, right? You got to measure everything against something. You got to measure your life against, and in this culture, it measures itself against, other people, relevancy, issues rather than people. I'm concerned about issues. If I affiliate myself with the proper issues that are culturally acceptable, then now I hold a position that is relevant. And that's what matters most. It doesn't matter if I ever do anything. It's just as long as I affiliate myself with that position. So I can decry climate change and be all up in arms about taking care of the world and the environment. However, I'm not going to miss my backpacking trip in Europe that I'm going to take an airplane to. And then next year, I'm going to go on this trip and I'm going to fly. It's contradictory. But it doesn't matter, because you don't have to do anything towards it when image is all that matters, perception is all that matters, proper affiliation is all that matters. That's the image-driven society we live in. And so all I have to do is present myself as if I'm affiliated with the right things. And then I'm great. I'm great because I'm relevant. And that's a religious thing, because we know this is the thing. That's always moving, so there's always a new thing to grade yourself against. Oh, am I affiliated with the right group? Oh, no, not no more. Okay, over here. Oh, they've been canceled over here. That's an exhausting way to live. It's the tyranny of the measurement against others or getting other things that culturally accepted. And this is the reality that we have to realize, man. Like, to serve somebody, it takes resilience. You can't, to truly serve the needy, you can't be jumping from this one over to this one, over to this one, and then I'm going to go here. Because that's all about you. That ain't real service. That's consumerism. Let go here until it stops benefiting me. And then it's not about benefiting the person in need, that child. It's about benefiting you. So then I go over here because this is more beneficial for my image. I'm affiliated right there. Those who truly help are not about elevating themselves. They're not arguing like the disciples about which among us is the greatest. They're saying, how can I go serve the child, the needy, the outcast? takes resilience. Elizabeth and I were talking about this. Servant leadership is about exceeding expectations, not meeting the bare minimum. You know somebody's in for themselves when they're just trying to do the bare minimum just to get by. Just because that's all about perception. As long as I can be perceived that I'm doing the right thing, I'm connected to the right things, just do the bare minimum. And true greatness exceeds expectations. Greatness is exceeding expectations. This is what Romans 12:10 says. It says, love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead. Lead in honoring one another. Lead in honoring one another. Exceed expectations when you interact with one another. Jesus, by taking this child up beside him as he's in his seat, the seat of the teacher, he's drawing that child up there in view of everyone. He's elevating that child. He's elevating the needy and the outcast in the society. It's incredible. We should be outdoing one another in honor, not perception. Not even perception of like programmed systems and processes. Not that those aren't important. I love all of those things. They help us do things more efficiently and all of those things that God guides us. But Jesus shows us his concern was not with programs to reach the multitudes, but with men whom the multitudes would follow. We can put men and women. Men and women whom the multitudes will follow. Around here we say it this way. We're striving to reach the one in order to reach the many. We look at the book, if you remember back in the series on Acts, you go, look at Acts. My man Luke wrote 2 full books, the Gospel of Luke and Acts, the story of the apostles, the Acts of the Apostles by Jesus Christ. 2 full books to one guy. And we're still reading him and being influenced today. His whole intention was to reach Theophilus. One person. And through reaching that one person, he's reached, I don't know how many are in the church historically. He's reached the large majority of them that had been influenced in any way by Luke or Acts. By seeking out the one, by prioritizing the one, that's how the many were met and influenced and led. This is the deal. Programs that work because of the people that work. There's a slew of programs. There's thousands of programs. You can get online now and it's like, what's the best strategy for this? And you'll come up with 75 strategies that has worked. You know why they worked? It wasn't because the strategy was necessarily the one strategy. It was because the people working behind that strategy made it work. That's greatness. That's perseverance. That's resilience. It's not jumping from one thing to the other, because that's caring about yourself rather than caring about those who are in need. And Jesus says, the greatest among you will be the least. And Jesus shows us that the presence of Yahweh is ushered into our lives through serving. The presence of Yahweh is ushered into your life through serving. So he says, when you take this little child in, like, you welcome me and my Father, and we already know the Spirit's with us. Yahweh is there. That's incredible. So let me ask you a question. Does God feel distant? Are you and I constantly asking God, where are you? Where are you, God? If you find yourself asking that question over and over in your life, the problem is not Yahweh's. It's yours. It's mine. It's our problem. The Father sent His Son. He's done it all. Jesus is already, He's already done it all. The Father sent His Son. The Son showed us the Father, and the Spirit guides us in all that Jesus showed us. Jesus shows us that servant leaders go first. Servant leaders go first. They lead by example. Servant leaders lead by example. Jesus stood up there, took in a child, and led by example. In the seat of the rabbi, the seat of the teacher. Modeled it for them in private. Showed them what it looks like. He went He went first. Flip over to Philippians chapter 2. Go in further into the New Testament, General Electric Power Company. Is that Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians? That's how that goes. General Electric, if you can remember General Electric Power Company, you know the order of those. Philippians chapter 2. And real quick, here's the thing. There's so much here. Once again, I have an hour's worth of content that I could show you about this, but this is all connected to Acts chapter 16, Philippians chapter 2. Paul walks into this place, Macedonia, Philippi, and the church begins to be established, and there's this weird thing that happens there that Paul goes to jail, and he doesn't tell them he's a Roman citizen until after they try to release him. And Luke just adds this in Acts chapter 16. Like, why would you add that? Well, here's just real simply. Philippi, more than any other Roman city of that day, was absolutely enthralled by status. You go back and historically we look, they were all about the different levels of status within the Roman the Roman society, and like it was like common for a person to like actually have their status listed outside of their front door in Philippi. They were consumed with status. So what we see is Paul mentions that, or Luke mentions that they didn't even know that Paul was a Roman citizen until after they were going to release him from prison, which means Paul was functioning in the society non-repping his status. He was leading in Philippi in such a way where you wouldn't know what his status was. And that makes sense when you jump to Philippians chapter 2, why we get this maybe the most beautiful picture of humility in maybe all the scriptures outside of the narrative of Jesus. Chapter 2, verse 5 says this: adopt the same attitude as that of Christ, who existing in the form of God did not consider equality with God as something to be exploited. Instead, he emptied himself by assuming the form of a servant, taking on the likeness of humanity. When he had come as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even to death on a cross. For this reason, God highly exalted him and gave him a name that is above every name, so that the name of Jesus every knee will bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, the glory of God the Father. Jesus led by example. So I want to show you this. All right, go back right there. All right, status level 1. I would encourage you to bracket this whole portion just this way. Verses 5 and 6, bracket it, put status level 1, pre-incarnate Christ. This is the position of honor. Jesus is sitting in the highest position of honor that's known. Okay? This is where he is. Now look at his next status. This was self-doing. Okay? He does this himself because he's compelled by love to do this. He takes the status of a slave. Instead, he empties himself by assuming a servant, taking on likeness of human. Okay? So he takes on the status of a slave. Now the next status level, as if that wasn't enough, he takes it another and steps all the way into utter humiliation. Utter humiliation. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Status level 3. Jesus walks to the cross in death. Now, here's the thing. Look at number 4. Surprising status reversal. You see it flip. Oh, it's down, 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 down. He keeps stepping it down in statuses. And it's in that the status is actually revealed as the greatest. This is what is the greatest. For this reason. What reason? Because he stepped it down in status to become a human and then even to die on a cross. Utter humiliation. He gave of himself. He reached after the needy, went after them. He led in this way by example, serving us. For this reason, God highly exalted him and gave him the name that's what? Greater than every name, that's above every name. Where did greatness come from? It comes from giving of yourself. It comes from service. So the greatest here is going to be the least. The least will be the greatest. Now, I'm going to start with you. Here we go on this July 4th. Are your children seeing you serve? Not just in areas you like or are comfortable with, but here's what leaders do. They see a need, they fill a need. So are your children seeing you see a need, call it out, and then not just stand back and be like, oh, that's a need, that needs to be taken care of. Launching grenades at it. Where they see you step into the midst of it, take that need under your arm and take charge. Oh, that's not my position, it's not my title, that's not my job. Don't matter. If you ain't fit to step up and take it even when you don't have the title, you're not fit for the title. Dads, are your children seeing you serve? This is the thing, man. Servant leadership is not something that we do. It's who we are. It's who we are. If we are in Christ, then who Jesus is who we are. And this is who He was. He was a servant leader. He led by example. Servant leaders are humble and empathetic. He looks and sees the needy among them, the child, and He brings him clothes. He empathizes with that child, the needy. He humbles Himself, as we already saw in Philippians chapter 2. Servant leaders are flexible and resilient too. So it's not my way or the highway. I'll serve as long as everything's going the way I want it to. Come on. When's the last time everything went the way you wanted it to? Just generally speaking. You know? But flexible. When you serve, are you flexible? Are you flexible? Are you resilient? Even though opposition and things, roadblocks kind of step up, do you view every opposition as an opposition or an opportunity? Because servant leaders see every opposition as an opportunity. They're resilient. So, Matt, you and the band, y'all can come on up, but don't lean in here. Don't worry about them. Y'all look at me. This is what I want to say about us here. So that's for you. And that's not just for you dads, moms. It's the same deal. Brothers, sisters, it's the same deal. Friends, it's the same deal. Servant leadership, that's who we are because that's who Jesus is. This is a pillar of us. The least will be the greatest. Here's the thing. Here, I'm talking about this church, Smoky View. This is as graciously and as kind as I can say it, okay? Those who jockey for position don't get position. Come on. Those who jockey for position around here, you will not serve in leadership. I'm being as gracious and as kind as I can be right now. I don't have an elevated voice. I'm just speaking. This is the truth. We know that also that leaders aren't found. They're developed. And so we'll put a premium on developing servant leaders. This is why we're having leadership development here on July 25th. Talking about the things and expectations and things that we're looking for. We put a premium on leadership development. We know this. We know that when you give someone a task, you create a follower. But when you give someone authority, you create a leader. So we're resilient. We're flexible. We're going to give out authority, and we're going to watch sometimes some of you leaders, you step out, because you've been started, you're going to fall flat on your face. And you know what we're going to do? We're not going to stand back and be like, that was terrible. We're going to step right in, needy person. Oh, pretty good. Stand up. Resilient, flexible. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. We ain't perfect. Leaders here are not called to be perfect. They're called to be willing. To give of themselves to serve the needy. So over the next couple of months, we're going to be developing leadership teams in regards to our youth, SV Missions, SV Kids, and our social ministry, SV Social Ministry. These are 4 teams they're going to be working to put together. We're not just up here talking about these things. If you're going to talk about it, go do it. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to give some people authority. Set them loose. Because Part of what our mission is at this church, what we say is we are to equip families and empower leaders. We want leaders. We want people who are like Jesus, who are willing to step out. In the midst of the arguing about who's the greatest, they're like, I'm just going to serve the needy. That's better. The way of Jesus is better, isn't it? The way of Jesus is a better way.